In the bustling heart of a small Midwestern town, where the aroma of fresh coffee mingled with the hum of early risers, Sarah wiped down the counter of Joe's Diner for what felt like the 1,000th time. It was 6:15 a.m., and the door chime announced his arrival. Mr. Harlan, the old man with the weathered coat and a smile that seemed to carry the weight of forgotten stories. He shuffled in every morning like clockwork, his cane tapping softly against the linoleum floor, and Sarah's heart always softened at the sight. Little did she know, this routine act of kindness would unravel a life she never imagined. Sarah had been waitressing at the diner for 5 years, ever since her dreams of college faded under the burden of her mother's medical bills. At 28, she was the epitome of quiet resilience, ponytail tied back, apron stained with yesterday's spills, and a warmth in her eyes that made even the grumpiest truckers leave a tip. Mr. Harlan was different, though. He wasn't just a customer. He was a ritual. He'd order the same thing, black coffee, 2 sugars, and a single pancake, no syrup. But it was the way he lingered gazing out the window at the waking world that tugged at her. One rainy morning when his hands trembled too much to pour his own cream, Sarah had stepped in without a word, steadying his cup and chatting about the weather. From then on, she helped him, refilling his mug before he asked, cutting his pancake into neat bites, even walking him to the door on days when his arthritis flared. It wasn't for tips. Mr. Harlan left barely enough for a candy bar. It was simply because in a world that rushed by, someone had to pause. The townsfolk whispered about him. "Old Harlan's a hermit," they'd say. "Lives in that rundown house on Elm Street, no family, no friends." Sarah didn't care. She saw the loneliness in his faded blue eyes, the way his stories of World War II heroism trickled out like precious relics. He'd talk about his late wife, Eleanor, how she'd make the best apple pie and Sarah would listen, her own dreams of a family deferred by long shifts and empty evenings. "You're a good soul, Sarah," he'd murmur, patting her hand. "The world needs more like you." She'd blush and wave it off, but those words fueled her through the ache of her feet and the sting of unpaid bills. Kindness, she believed, was the quiet glue holding humanity together, a lesson from her grandmother, who'd raised her after her parents passed young. Weeks turned to months and their mornings became a sanctuary. Sarah learned Mr. Harlan had no children, his siblings long gone. He confided in her about his regrets. A life spent building something grand only to end up alone. In return, she shared her struggles, the eviction notice looming, her mother's nursing home costs swallowing her savings. "One day things'll turn around," he'd say with a wink. Sarah smiled, not believing it but grateful for the hope. Then came the unexpected turn. One crisp autumn morning as she helped him settle into his booth, Mr. Harlan looked frailer than usual. His voice cracked as he said, "Sarah, you've been my angel. Don't forget that." She squeezed his shoulder, thinking nothing of it until the next day he didn't show. Worry gnawed at her, but the diner demanded her attention. Days passed without him and a hollow ache settled in her chest. Had she missed a sign? Was he okay? It was a Tuesday when the door swung open with unusual force and in walked 4 burly men in dark suits, flanking 2 sharp-dressed lawyers clutching briefcases. The diner fell silent. Forks hovered mid-air as the group scanned the room. Sarah's heart raced. Were they cops? Debt collectors? The lead lawyer, a woman with a no-nonsense bun, locked eyes on her. "Are you Sarah Jenkins?" she asked, her tone clipped but not unkind. Sarah nodded, wiping her hands on her apron, confusion etching her face. The bodyguards stood like sentinels as the lawyers approached, pulling out a thick envelope. "We're here on behalf of Mr. Harlan Whitaker," the man beside her said. Whitaker? Sarah's mind reeled. The old man she'd known as Harlan was Harlan Whitaker, the reclusive billionaire who'd founded Whitaker Industries, a tech empire that revolutionized renewable energy decades ago. The one who'd vanished from public life after his wife's death? The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Mr. Harlan hadn't been a penniless hermit. He'd been hiding in plain sight, shunning his fortune for a simple life in the town where he'd grown up. The lawyers explained he'd passed peacefully in his sleep the week before at 92 with no heirs. But in his will, drafted years ago and updated recently, he'd left a stipulation that stunned Sarah, a trust fund of $5 million earmarked for her, along with his Elm Street home, renovated in secret to be a community center for the elderly. "He said you reminded him of Eleanor," the lawyer read from the document, her voice softening. Your kindness wasn't obligatory. It was genuine. In a world of transactions, you gave freely. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as profound realization dawned, not just on her, but on the diner patrons eavesdropping in awe. All those mornings, she'd seen a lonely old man, but he'd seen her struggles, her selflessness mirroring the humanity he'd lost faith in after Eleanor's passing. The emotional climax crested as the lawyers handed her a handwritten letter from Mr. Harlan. Unfolding it with trembling hands, Sarah read aloud in a whisper, "Dear Sarah, you've shown me that compassion isn't extinct. You've helped me more than I ever helped you, reminding me of the power in small acts. Use this to chase your dreams and pay it forward. The world is better because of people like you." Sobs escaped her as the bodyguards, stoic until now, shifted uncomfortably, one even dabbing his eyes. The diner erupted in applause, strangers hugging her, sharing stories of their own quiet kindnesses. In that moment, Sarah's life transformed, not just financially, but deeply. The weight of her burdens lifted, replaced by a surge of purpose. She could pay off her mother's care, go back to school for nursing, turn the house into a haven where no one felt alone. As the lawyers and bodyguards departed, leaving the diner buzzing with wonder, Sarah stepped outside into the crisp air, the sun breaking through clouds like a promise. She thought of Mr. Harlan's wink, his stories, and realized the true gift wasn't the money. It was the validation that one person's humanity could ripple outward, touching lives in ways unseen. In a nation built on dreams and second chances, where everyday heroes like waitresses and veterans crossed paths, this was a reminder. Kindness, given without expectation, had the power to heal, to uplift, to change destinies. Sarah returned to her shift with a renewed spirit, vowing to help others as he'd helped her. And in that small town, the story spread, inspiring a chain of good deeds. A neighbor checking on the elderly, a child sharing lunch with a lonely classmate. For in the end, the greatest legacy isn't wealth or fame, but the spark of hope ignited by selfless hearts, proving that even in the quietest corners, humanity's light shines brightest.